Good evening, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here in the home weather office with another detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Sunday, May the 19th, 2024. In today's tropical outlook, we're going to be looking at the tropics, sea surface temperatures, and how those rank among past seasons that could give us a very busy, hyperactive season. More on that in just a second. As always, I always like looking at the National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook that they release 4 times a day. And of course, as of Sunday, May the 19th, 2024 at 7:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, there is no concerns of any tropical formation out here in the next 7 days, which again, that is a far cry of what we're about to see possibly by June into July, August, and September, which are typically a huge ramp up in the tropics. So when we take a look at the latest GOES 16 true color visible satellite imagery provided by Dr. Levi Cowan at tropicaltidbits.com, link in the description below this video. And when we take a look at the satellite, we do have a lot of wind shear that is cutting across. See these milky white cirrus cutting all the way from the west to the east. There is a lot of wind shear, and tropical cyclones do not like a lot of wind shear in the air to develop in. What we want is a lot of this shear to back away. But climatology does speak for itself, and this is May the 19th and the 20th, depending on what time zone you're in when watching this video. And that typically means we just have way too much shear out here in the early part of the Atlantic hurricane season, usually in June 1st when it officially begins, and there's just too much shear. But occasionally we can get development, usually in the Caribbean as well as in the Gulf of Mexico. So the question remains, where are we as far as the Atlantic hurricane and tropical storm activity compared to normal? Well, I'll tell you what right now. We are here, so I'm going to actually use my yellow arrow for a telestration. We're roughly here. To be exact, maybe 1 or 2 days off, but really, there's never any activity during this time of the year in May, which is why the National Hurricane Center only begins their discussions on May the 15th. It really isn't until we get into, say, July, and especially in August, when the tropics really get going, and especially in late August into early September is when we get usually the most named storms and the strongest hurricanes, usually because the sea surface temperatures, the moisture content, and the wind shear are very favorable for a lot of tropical cyclones. So again, we're only here on the map, and we have a long way to go. Folks, we have more than a few months to go before the climatological peak of the Atlantic hurricane season. To put this into better perspective, this is also from the National Hurricane Center from NOAA, the National Weather Service. They're partnered together, and they make this graph recently. This is up to date as of 2020, from 1944 to 2020, 77 years of the normalized to 100 years. So the number of named storms per 100 years is usually 10 to 29 in June. So that's fairly low. That's not very high given the blue color that you're seeing here, with not much tropical development usually in the Caribbean this time of the year. It's usually in the Gulf of Mexico and off the eastern seaboard when you have the best development. Now, the number of hurricanes per 100 years is even lower, mainly over the eastern Gulf of Mexico per 100 years, where you favor 5 to 19 hurricanes per 100 years. That's, again, very, very low. That's not very much at all. But when you put this into September, that's when the number of named storms per 100 years is certainly most higher. The red is 70, greater than 70 to even 80 named storms per 100 years. That's like a storm every other year. Sometimes you get a storm every year in September. Well, actually in September, you do get named storms every year in September because it's usually the most active period. But this is showing us that this area in the Eastern Caribbean, in the Southwestern Atlantic, in the Western Atlantic is generally the most favorable area. Not to mention the Gulf of Mexico can get up to 50 to 70 named storms perhaps per 100 years, which is pretty significant. Now, when looking at the number of hurricanes, it's also similar in the Gulf, anywhere between 20 to 34 hurricanes per 100 years. Areas in the red, like Bermuda, you average around 50 hurricanes per 100 years. That's about a hurricane every other September, somewhere near Bermuda at this given time. And of course, in the portions there of the Leeward and Windward Islands, you typically average 20 to 49 20 to 49 hurricanes per 100 years in September. Now, another product that I also like to look at in the current is our upper ocean heat content. This is actually the anomaly from the University of Miami, doing something a little bit special and different in today's update. We're actually we'll be looking at the other products from the University of Miami here in a little bit, but this is showing us where upper ocean heat content is above average, and anything in orange and red and even some of these pink colors down here in the deep tropics really illustrate that upper ocean heat content is at record-breaking territory. Why is this important, you might ask? Well, upper ocean heat content is the amount of heat being stored in the ocean for tropical cyclone genesis. You need a lot of upper ocean heat content to get tropical depressions, tropical storms, or hurricanes to form. Now, this let alone does not make tropical cyclones develop, but when they do develop under a very pristine atmosphere, these tropical cyclones can quickly organize and intensify because of how much heat is being stored in the ocean. This is like octane fuel for tropical cyclones to use up. It's like juice. It's like gasoline, right? Not literally gasoline in the ocean, but a great analogy of how much energy is being stored. And there is a lot of it this year, much more than average. And in some cases, we're seeing well above average to record-breaking upper ocean heat content in portions of the Caribbean and in the deep tropics of the main development region of the Atlantic. Now, the actual amount of upper ocean heat content, this is the daily contribution map, we definitely see that anything theoretically more than 0 is some sort of upper ocean heat content, enough octane fuel for tropical cyclones to use up if they develop. And this down here in the Caribbean and in the Western main development region is absurd. This is extreme amounts, especially here in the red. That is near the Cayman Islands. That's near the Island of Youth, as well as Jamaica, south of the Dominican Republic, Cuba. Very high numbers, enough to really, if things were favorable, the background state was favorable, the upper level wind pattern was very favorable, and we had a tropical wave moving in this environment, it could allow that system to really intensify very, very quickly. So another thing I wanted to show you all is how much or what are the sea surface temperature anomalies around the globe. Now, we're going to really be focusing on our La Nina very quickly. So this and really the Atlantic, because La Nina and the Atlantic do coincide with each other as far as how that will affect the Atlantic hurricane season. So, of course, this is 2005 of May the 18th. So nearly about 19 years ago, this is what we saw. Very little in the way of a La Nina, more like of a warm neutral state in the ocean. But look at this. The main development region was very warm, and we had that somewhat deceased-looking horseshoe shape, the Iberian Current, warmer than average, somewhat off the coast of Africa. And that brought really warm sea surface temperatures, warmer than average, to the Caribbean as well as the Western main development region. But we're going to compare this. These are the 3 busiest seasons. One of them we could be witnessing, but the 2 were officially hyperactive seasons. What did the sea surface temperature anomalies look like that gave us a hyperactive season, especially 2020. That's what we'll be looking at, okay? So this is May 18th, 2005. We know that season gave us a lot of named storms. I think it was like close to 30 named storms. Very, very busy season. Nevertheless, we had very intense hurricanes then, right? This is 2020 of May the 18th. We had our La Nina getting going, but look at the Atlantic was somewhat above average. In our main development region, we were looking at about a half a degree, maybe 2 degrees, about 1.5 degrees Celsius above normal, correct? But the thing here is, this gave us 30 plus named storms. Okay, this profile gave us a hyperactive season. We all remember that. Do you all remember Isaias? We had Laura. We did have Laura. Man, see, there was too many named storms, right? Yeah, we did have Laura. We had Delta. We had Iota that year. We just I can't even fathom. Very busy season, you name it. A lot of named storms. Some of them were intense, life-threatening, and did a lot of billions of dollars in damage. Now let's take a look at May 18th, 2024. And yes, Brendan, that is listening to me making this video, he's muted, and I want you to stay muted, brother. He's probably going to be like, oh my gosh, how similar can you get with this season coming up to what we had in 2020 and 2005, which were both busy seasons? Here you go, folks. Are you ready? Spoil alert. We're going to probably insert an ad right now. So when we take a look here at May 18th, 2024, my gosh, I'm speechless, and I'm not saying this to cause fear, hype, or mongering, or any sort of thing that you kind of think of. But I'll tell you, sea surface temperatures here, I've said this time and time again in my previous outlook yesterday, sea surface temperatures here are at least 2 degrees Celsius above average in a wide swath of the Atlantic. There are a couple of areas off the West African continent, including the Cabo Verde Islands, that we are seeing sea surface temperatures as high as 3.5 degrees Celsius above average. That is really significant when you put it in perspective. Very warm in the Bahamas, Florida. We are seeing sea surface temperatures in the Gulf as much as 1 degree to a couple of degrees Celsius above normal, which is very significant. In the Caribbean as well, 2 or so degrees Celsius, well, about 1 degree or so above normal. And then you get closer to the Eastern Caribbean where it's a little warmer. But I want to show you all, this gave us 30 named storms. What will this give us? I'm telling you, folks, there are analogs to back up a very, very busy season, potentially a hyperactive one. And I'll tell you, Penn State University is going as high as 33 named storms with a range of 27 to 39 named storms. You heard it from my mouth, and Brendan will even back that up for you in the comments when he gets to this video. He is probably like, oh my gosh, really? Did Penn State really actually put 33 named storms? Yes, they did, Brendan. It's legit. You can actually go to 2024 Atlantic hurricane season on Wikipedia, and then you can find it there with their outlook. It says 33 named storms, but the range plus or minus 6 named storms gets you that equation. All right, upper ocean heat content. We just showed you this again. I just want to go through this very quickly. This is 2024. That's how high it is. And when we compare that to 2020, that's how high it was. So again, look closely. 2020, 2024, 2020, 2024. Yes, everyone could agree that this year alone is much higher. This is a little further north than what we have had, and the upper ocean heat content here, especially in the Caribbean and in the deep tropics, are much higher than they should be. I mean, look at this. This is just unbelievable, especially in the central northwestern Caribbean is where it's very high. Look at that loop current, very high upper ocean heat content. So now, another question from you all are, Well, what's the background state looking like right now? What is the trigger? What's going to lead to a lot of these waves coming off of Africa? Well, when we look at the European ensemble prediction system, this is the velocity potential anomaly. This is the VPA in short terms. So green areas, and to put it into simple terms, are upward motion in the atmosphere. There's a lot of convection. There's divergent flow aloft because you're getting a lot of latent heat release from the surface, from where the waters are, and that allows some upward motion to get going. Convection, lower shear, lots of moisture, less Saharan dust off of Africa, and that usually gives us more of these tropical waves. So we're going through a suppressive phase right now. So when we look at May 16th through May the 21st, 2024 here, so this is in the next 7 or 8 days, and this is the Mercator projection, by the way. So if you think about it, the main development region is right in this zone, right in this box. Okay, I'm going to try my best at illustrating this. So this is where we really look at the Atlantic. This is the zone that we're seeing. Okay, actually, you know what? It even goes a little further. My bad, because you have the Gulf of Mexico. So it even goes all the way even over here, all the way back towards Africa is where we see. So right now, nothing is favorable. We have a lot of shear, drier air, not much tropical wave activity. That's going to close us off on May. I don't see any development for the rest of May. If we do, I would be very shocked. Some of the models, the GFS trying to go in a little ballistic. But I think once we go into June, I think we're going to make up a lot because we have a lot of upward motion here on the ensemble forecast from the Euro, showing a lot of upward motion, a lot of moisture piling up here in the deep tropics, very light trade winds. We're going to have a lot of sea surface temperature warmth going on too, and that's going to allow some problems to develop, unfortunately. So now when we take a look here at our Saharan dust forecast, now I did want to bring this in a lot of my videos because a couple of you in a couple of videos ago on my seasonal forecast, it was try to show more Saharan dust. So that's what I'm doing here. So in simple terms, the more dust you have, the yellower and the whiter colors you get. Okay, lesser Saharan dust is in the purple colors, and simply the bluer colors here have very little to no Saharan dust. So putting this forward in time, we can see over the next 3 days, more Saharan dust coming off of Africa. All right, and then more of it coming off in about 7 or 8 days. So by next weekend, May 26th and the 27th, I think we're gonna have a lot of dust to contend with. Now, I wanna make it clear in my videos, this does not mean we're not gonna have a very busy season. A lot of you have probably been saying that in my previous videos that, oh my gosh, we're gonna have a lot of Saharan dust this year. This is climatology, this is normal. We typically see a lot of Saharan dust coming off of Africa between now and pretty much in mid to late July. So it's not a surprise to see this. Once we get into mid-August, that's when the Saharan dust slowly moves north and it abates, allowing the tropical waves to develop. This year, it might end a little earlier because we have a very busy season coming and we have a lot more moisture to contend with in the deep tropics. So again, just because we have a lot of dust here does not disseminate that we will not have a busy season, because that is clearly an understatement. Never sleep on the tropics, folks, any time of the summer season. So this is a look at the GFS model. I'm going to go through this fairly quick. I'm trying to compress this down a little bit. My video probably more than 20 minutes again, but you get the idea. This is a look at the 850 millibar layer. This is the cyclonic relative vorticity. So what we're looking at is redder colors on the screen, indicating a lot more spin in the atmosphere. This is what we're looking for, but this has to be in the deep tropics, coming off of Africa into the Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. So when we go forward here on the GFS, we got a sprawling ridge. The GFS still thinks we're going to have some tropical development here, potentially in the short term in the next 3 to 5 days. The NHC is not really optimistic about it because the Euro is not showing it, but the GFS still is. And so therefore, I don't think we're going to see much in the way of development, and we won't see anything anytime soon at all, at least in the next 10 days. So this is going all the way out until the end of May. which is good because I am going on vacation to Fort Bragg on the 29th of May, and I'll be back on the 3rd. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have any tropical development during that time frame, because I will not be in the office during that period. I'll probably be doing these mobily instead off my iPad. But anyways, as far as the GFS goes, through the next couple of weeks, we're seeing this Bermuda high in place, so that's going to keep the trade winds going, going to lead to more Saharan air layer outbreaks potentially, and that's going to keep things suppressed. So in the long term, medium or short, medium, and long term, we're not seeing any tropical development. This is the same way on the Euro, showing not much in the way of tropical formation at all. I'm sorry I'm going through this pretty fast. There's really not much to kind of decipher on at all. And look, at the Euro is not going very optimistic on that at all on our vorticity forecast. So that's a look at the tropics. But anyways, if you did enjoy today's detailed tropical weather outlook and discussion for Sunday, May the 19th, 2024, please consider subscribing for latest detailed updates on the tropics. I will be making these almost every day, as much as I can possible. I know they get boring when there's not a lot going on, but if necessary, we will be making updates quite often on this channel this year, especially since it's going to be a very busy, potentially hyperactive Atlantic hurricane season. Please stay up to date by subscribing, ringing the bell icon, and leaving a comment in the section below this video. You need to stay up to date with alerts on the channel, because I will be doing a lot on the tropics, including live stream discussions and a seasonal forecast that will be out tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that. So thank you all for watching, and I'll be back with you more tomorrow.